Well, welcome back. Here we are in Keto Naturopath Kitchen, and today I have a very special treat. We're making a keto German chocolate cake. I adapted this from a regular German chocolate cake recipe, mostly for the frosting, but I'm going to start off with making the cake. And the cake is a sponge-like cake because I like that kind of cake. It's not heavy, it's very light and low carb. So as I don't like to cook with nut flours all that much, so this is an egg-based cake, and it's my regular sponge cake recipe for chocolate sponge. You have 6 eggs separated. In this I have the 6 egg whites. And what I used to do is I used to whip up the egg yolks and do all that and then wash the beaters and do the egg whites, and somebody left a comment, well, why don't you just do the egg whites first and then you don't have to wash the beaters? And I'm like, brilliant. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to whip the egg whites to a stiff peak, and this is just egg whites in here. So here we go. So that's a stiff peak. I can put the bowl upside down and it's not going to go anywhere. So now we'll work with the egg yolks. So again, 6 egg yolks in here. And I'm going to start beating them until they get light and fluffy. Actually, I beat them until they start getting pale. So they're starting to get pale. And now I'm going to add the sweetener. And I am using 62 grams of xylitol. You can use whatever sweetener you want. Now you beat this till it is light and creamy. As you can see, it's really changed color now. It's very light. As I've mentioned before, I can only use xylitol and stevia as a sweetener. Erythritol gives me very extremely bad headaches, and allulose, extreme gastric issues. So I cannot do either of those. Most monk fruits are mostly erythritol. There are some pure monk fruit sweeteners. I do have a liquid sweetener that I got on Wellevate that's pure monk fruit. However, when I'm baking and you need a granular or powdered sweetener, I have to use xylitol. So we'll start with, this is 30 grams of cocoa, and I use Valrhona that I got off of Amazon because it's a nice dark chocolate. And this is the Valrhona. It's very dark and intense chocolate, so that's why I like this. I'll put a link to that down below. We'll have a teaspoon of gelatin. Why? I have been putting gelatin in all my baked goods, all my PSMF breads, everything, because it just adds a softness to the texture. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla and 1/2 teaspoon of cocoa extract. And I took my bottle of cocoa extract and it was empty. So now I am using the cocoa chocolate extract that I made. It's been sitting there for a long time. It doesn't have to sit there as long as vanilla, but it's just been there for about a year because I never took the cocoa nibs out. So it's basically cocoa nibs, and this is with rum. That's a lot. So I'm actually going to put some back. And now we're going to mix this well. If you have dogs, do not use xylitol. We have cats and we're very careful. When I'm cooking with xylitol, we put them in the other room so that they don't accidentally get any xylitol. That's nice and well mixed. So now we fold in the egg whites, 1/3 at a time. And again, another suggestion, people say use a spatula, not the spoon. I'll try it, but I may have to go back to my spoon because I can just feel it better. I know what I'm doing. Maybe I have the wrong kind of spatula, I don't know, but these just don't work for me. I have a lot of people asking me to make different recipes, and I have to come up with recipes. I made a great bread pudding because someone in our Precision PSMF course asked me to do a bread pudding. The bread pudding would not be good for PSMF days, but on regular keto days, it's great and it's so delicious. Then I had somebody ask me to do a carrot cake. So I did a carrot cake, and nobody asked for German chocolate cake, but I just felt like making it. So if there's anything you want made, just write it in the comments and I'll try it. So this is basically my chocolate sponge cake recipe, which I use for a lot of things. It's a nice low-carb, light cake that can be used for many purposes. And especially with the German chocolate cake, because it has nuts and coconut in the frosting, you want to try to not have many carbs. So I will divide this into two 8-inch cake pans. And I actually got round cake pans for this. I usually use my 8-inch square, but we're going to try round today. So half in one, half in the other. And I love the silicone cake pans. Everything comes out easily. And I will put a link to the ones I bought on Amazon. These will go in a 350 degree Fahrenheit oven for 20 minutes or until a toothpick comes out dry. So I'll put these in and then we'll be back to make the frosting. The cakes are in the oven and now we're going to make the frosting, the German chocolate frosting. I don't like things very sweet, so I'm putting in less sweetener. I'll taste it, and if I need to add more sweetener, I will add some liquid stevia. In here, I have a can of coconut cream. I like Thai Kitchen coconut cream, so I have a can of that in the saucepan. To that, I'm using 70 grams of xylitol. Again, I don't like things very sweet. I initially had 100 grams. The recipe that I was copying had like 2 cups of sweetener, and I'm like, whoa, that's way too much. And I have 6 egg yolks. So we're going to whisk all of this together. If you're not dairy-free, you can use heavy cream instead of coconut cream. I try to make things dairy-free. Yes, I know that next ingredient's not dairy-free, and I thought, well, what do I do? So I'm actually adding 1 stick of butter, which is a half a cup. And then I thought, when I did the recipe, and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do it. But next time, to make it totally dairy-free, I will use bacon grease. And I've used bacon grease before instead of butter in baked goods, and it's very good. All those ingredients, and you turn the heat on to medium, and you bring it to a light boil. The butter has to melt. I used softened butter, so it won't take as long. Okay, so this is now at a light boil, so you can just see it bubbling. I turned it down to medium. The butter is melted. So now I'm going to add a teaspoon of gelatin. Cook this till it thickens for 3 to 5 minutes, and it shouldn't take long, so I'll just keep an eye on it because I don't want it to overcook. And I have about 2 minutes till the cakes come out, so about the time the cakes come out, this should be done. Now this is what I did. What I did was reduce the amount of pecans and coconut because I did the macros with the full amount, and it was like 23 grams of carbs per serving. And I'm like, I wouldn't even eat that. So I have 50 grams of shredded unsweetened coconut. and 100 grams of chopped pecans. Stir it all in. Then you pour that into a bowl, and this has to sit for at least an hour before you frost the cakes. So by that time, the cakes will be all cooled off and we can frost it. So I'll see you back in about an hour. The cake is cooled. It's been an hour. The frosting is cooled. I cannot wait to try this. So here we go with the frosting. And I'm really glad that I did half the coconut and half the pecans, because one, I saved a lot of carbs, and two, it tastes great. I want to get frosting all the way to the sides. It's dribbling down, that's fine. And this I will be putting in the refrigerator, so the frosting will get a little thicker. Put the top layer on. You know, we'll pour most of it on. I don't think I need, there's maybe a spoonful left, but we'll let it dribble down the sides. That looks so good. Next, we'll cut it and try a piece. Now it's time to try. Again, it will look better once it's refrigerated for a little bit. I'm just trying a little piece. It looks amazing. This is delicious. I normally only have one bite. I'm having two this time. Keto German chocolate cake. Great.